Hi Apple lovers and welcome to another episode of the Tech Hub, and in this episode, this is my latest Apple Budget Buy Series episode where I will review old Apple tech which is still usable and affordable today. This episode looks at the iPad 9th generation which was released in 2021. Is it still worth it in 2025? Let's find out. Let's start the episode. Okay, so let me run through some initial thoughts about this device. I mean, ultimately, with iPads, especially ones that can run the latest OS, it's more about how they look and they feel. And I'm not a fan of the form factor. I mean, this is probably because my son had one and they kept on bending, even in a case, because they aren't really the sturdiest of iPads. So, as a top tip for you right there, I wouldn't recommend this in any strenuous lineup, especially with kids. But anyway, the iPad 9th generation was announced by Apple on the 14th of September 2021, continuing the tradition offering a budget-friendly yet versatile device in Apple's tablet lineup. The form factor hasn't changed since the 6th generation, so they just kept on upgrading the internals. I think maybe the camera got a bump as well, but it's pretty much been the same since 6th generation. Apple positioned it as an affordable entry-level tablet starting at $329 for the Wi-Fi only model and $459 for the Wi-Fi and cellular version. This one I've got is 64 gigabytes, space gray, and it is cellular, as you can see at the top. But it's not eSIM. There's actually a practical SIM. There it is. SIM tray, just like in a phone. So as of early 2025, the iPad 9th generation continues to receive software updates and remains a solid budget-friendly option for higher users who don't require the higher-end features like the iPad Air or the iPad Pro lines. It is also marked as one of the last iPads to use the classic design with a home button, as newer models increasingly move towards bezel-less design and Face ID or Touch ID in the power button. You can't get it from Apple anymore. It's a discontinued product. They are going to probably keep on software updating it. I'd expect maybe one more year, so maybe iOS 19. It served its purpose, and I think due to the form factor, for me, it's a tough sell now, especially when the iPad 10th generation is a pretty decent spec at a good price now, which we will dive into later. But anyway, we're talking about the iPad 9th generation, so let's talk about its specifications. So let's dive into the iPad 9th generation's Apple budget-friendly tablet that packs a surprising punch. Let's go through the full specs and see what makes this device stand out in 2021 and beyond. All right, let's get into it. The iPad 9th generation features a 10.2-inch Retina display with a resolution of 2160 by 1620 pixels at 264 pixels per inch. What's new? It has new True Tone technology, which they brought in throughout those upgrades every year, which adjusted the display's color temperature based on your surroundings. Of course, it uses the camera for that. So perfect for long reading or workout sessions. So under the hood, we've got the A13 Bionic chip with Apple's Neural engine. This chip is the same powerhouse that debuted in the iPhone 11 series, offering a 20% performance boost over the previous generation. So whether you're gaming, multitasking or editing photos, it handles everything like a champ. And you know, for me, I've sold a lot of these. This is probably my number one selling iPad on my eBay shop. I set them up to test them. This one is the one that takes the longest to get through that setup process. But however, once it's all loaded, it is capable. It's just I'm really not a fan of the form factor. I think you can feel that. So when it comes to benchmarks, Geekbench scores this chip well above other tablets in its price range and at the time. Now we'll talk about pricing later, but it's not a bad performing tablet at all. And the display's okay. It's just very weedy. So now the cameras are the highlight for this budget tablet. The front camera gets a big upgraded 12 megapixel ultra wide lens with center stage. This means during video calls, the camera tracks and keeps you in the frame, even if you move around. So perfect for Zoom or FaceTime calls. Now we are going to talk about the rear camera. However, that's really used and it should be used for documents rather than photos. So unless you're Asian, you shouldn't be taking photos. The rear camera is 8 megapixel wide lens, nothing groundbreaking, but great for scanning documents or casual photography. Like I always say with iPads, they have a camera, they're not a camera. Don't be going around taking pictures holding this massive iPad. Anyway, Apple finally stepped up the base storage. So this came in at 64 gigabytes of storage, which doubled the previous gen. And there's 256 gigabyte option if you need more room for apps, games, or creative projects. Now with creative projects, I mean, photo editing should be okay. iMovie's going to be fine. Final Cut Pro is not going to work on it. But if you're doing any pro work, you're not going to buy an entry-level budget iPad anyway. So battery life, you're looking at 10 hours on the web browsing or video playback. On Wi-Fi is about 9 hours on cellular, so pretty solid for everyday use. Now, these are getting old now. I have the earliest model I've got is 2023. But be wary when you buy these, the batteries aren't going to last much longer. So design-wise, it sticks to the classic iPad look with Touch ID home button, aluminium body, and slightly thicker bezels compared to the newer Air and Pro models. It still uses the Lightning port for charging, so no USB-C here. You can plug accessories into it, but you have to get dongles. So it came with iPadOS 15 out of the box, giving you access to features like split view, quick notes and live text. This software is tailored for both productivity and creativity. And there's a bonus for you. The iPad 9th generation is fully compatible with iPadOS 18, bringing even more features like improved widgets, enhanced multitasking and better app performance. So this keeps the device feeling fresh and future-proof for years to come. Do not expect Apple Intelligence on it though. It doesn't have the RAM. Not even the iPad 10th generation is compatible with Apple Intelligence. Like I said, I expect maybe one more OS upgrade and then that'll be it. So the 9th gen iPad supports the 1st generation Apple Pencil and the Smart Keyboard. Great if you're into note-taking, sketching, or you need a lightweight production setup. The Pencil works great with it. That keyboard is the Smart one, which is not as big or as usable as the Magic Keyboard, but if you need a typing option, it's there. And now the pricing at the time, like I said, it was $329 for the Wi-Fi or $459. I'll talk about the pricing at the end, and those prices are all based on eBay, as my channel is all about that. So let's see how it compares to the iPad 10th generation. So let's do our head-to-head comparison of the iPad 9th generation and the iPad 10th generation. Both are great tablets, but which one is right for you? Let's break it down and find out. So let's start with the design. The iPad 9th generation sticks to that classic iPad look, which has been around since the 6th generation with thicker bezels, a Touch ID home button and the Lightning port. It's familiar, but it's starting to feel a bit dated in 2025. And like I said, it really does feel flimsy. I mean, the iPad M4 11-inch is super thin. It's thinner than this, and this it doesn't feel as flimsy. It's like there's something missing in the middle. I'm really not a fan. Meanwhile, the 10th generation goes with slimmer bezels, a Touch ID power button at the top, and yes, it ditches the Lightning port for USB-C. It's a much sleeker, more premium design. The actual, if it just feels thicker, even though it's not that much thicker, it feels sturdier because the body is more like the iPad Air or even the iPad Mini. I really love the body on the iPad 10th generation. I don't have any at the moment, but I do like the feel of it. So both have a 10.2 inch display, but the 10th generation offers slightly better color accuracy and brightness. Plus, the 10th generation's landscape front-facing camera placement makes it much better for video calls. So remember, this was the last generation of it being portrait orientated. The iPad 10th generation is landscape orientated camera. So next up is the performance. The 9th gen runs on the A13 Bionic chip, which is still quite capable for everyday tasks like browsing, streaming and gaming. But the 10th generation takes it up a notch with the A14 Bionic chip. The A14 chip offers about 20% improvement in CPU performance and better graphics. So if you're gaming, editing videos or multitasking heavily, the 10th generation pulls ahead. Both tablets have an 8 megapixel rear camera, which is decent for scanning documents or casual shots, but the front camera is where things change. The 9th gen has that 12 megapixel ultra wide camera in the traditional portrait orientation, while the 10th gen moves the 12 megapixel camera, so it is the same camera, to the landscape edge. And this makes it ideal for video calls, especially if you're using a keyboard stand. Also, if you, I don't know if you've ever seen the tests, but look into, if you have the iPad in landscape mode, which most people do for video calls, in the portrait one, it just looked off. You would be looking at the camera, but it wouldn't be look like you're looking at the screen. However, they fixed that now, and that's come along to the iPad Air and the latest Pros as well. So when it comes to accessories though, the 9th gen supports the 1st gen Apple Pencil and the Smart Keyboard, but the 10th gen upgrades to the Apple Pencil via a USB-C. So there's an adapter for that, and it adds support for the Magic Keyboard Folio, giving you a laptop experience. So if you're planning to use the tablet for work or school, the Magic Keyboard Folio is a game changer, but it comes at a higher cost. Now, it is quite an expensive keyboard. It's not quite as good as the Magic Keyboard, but it's better than that Smart Folio one for the 9th generation. Also, with the Apple Pencil USB-C is also compatible for the 10th gen, and that's the one I'd recommend. So there you have it, two iPads, two very different approaches. The 9th gen's is a solid choice for budget buyers, while the 10th gen offers a fresh design and better features for those willing to spend more. Which one would you pick? Well, let me know in the comments below. So talking about pricing now, like I said, this is probably my most common iPad that I get. My shop's mainly about budget stuff. I sell these from anywhere between 2 and 250, depending on if it's cellular and the capacity of the hard drive. You can so that's kind of the buy it now guide, 2 to 250. You can get it for 10 to 20% less in auctions if you are willing to spend the time. Now the 10th gen, I believe in the UK, Apple sell it for £350 on offers in Amazon and stuff. You can usually pick them up for about £300 brand new. Is it worth the extra potential £100? Yes, for a brand new one, because you're getting a new battery. Remember, this is 9th gen. It's a few years old, so you're probably gonna not find any 100% batteries. 10th gen second-hand price about 250 to 300. So if you are going in the second-hand market for an extra 10 to 20%, I would go for the 10th generation. But there's nothing wrong with this iPad, I promise you. It does the job. But I understand when they retired it. I'm glad they retired it. This form factor is just out of date, and all hell the 10th generation. So that's the iPad 9th generation in a nutshell. It's a budget-friendly option for students, casual users, and anyone who wants a solid iPad experience without breaking the bank. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Have you had one of these? Are you thinking about getting one on a budget? Let me know in the comments, and as always, please be kind. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more tech content. You can follow me on Instagram and Threads at Tech Hub Worlds UK. I've also got a brand new website. Please go check it out at www.techhubworldsuk.co.uk, and I'll see you on the next episode.